Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rebecca, otherwise known as Hypnit Hooray Online, and in this video I've compiled a pattern roundup, which is probably my favorite type of video to research and plan for, and this one is going to be presenting some gift knits that you can knit this holiday season. I really wanted to get this video out as soon as possible. I'm filming right now, it's mid-November. I'm hoping to get it out before December, but we'll see. Fingers crossed I can get it out before December 1st. But because this is a roundup of some simple and classic patterns, I think even if you do start knitting them in the beginning of December, you'll definitely have ample time to make it and gift it to the recipient. So this is going to be a collection of mainly accessories that you can knit. I just think those are the most straightforward and most practical to a recipient if they're knit worthy, but to recipients to start using. They're a little bit more, I guess, low maintenance than other types of garments or things that require a little bit more care. And I'll just mention, like most of my roundups, I am going to be showing a photo of it on the side and also going to be referencing off my laptop. So if I'm looking there, that is why I'm looking at my notes. So the first category is fingerless gloves and mittens. The reason why I think fingerless gloves are so great to gift is because they're the most practical for a wide variety of recipients. For example, I really like to use fingerless gloves. Although it gets really cold in Toronto in the winter time, I really like them for their practicality. When I'm walking around outside, sometimes I'm using Google Maps, or when I need to grab things out of my bag, like my keys, it's just more practical to have your fingers free instead of them being closed off in a mitten. I do have a mitten pattern at the end though that I thought was really cool. But I just think they're more practical. Maybe if you're gifting to someone with young kids or who drives a lot, just having their hands more free is just a little bit easier, and you know that they're actually going to use the gift. So yeah, I have some fingerless glove patterns. So the first pattern is the Fancier Fingerless Gloves pattern by Bethany of Well Loved Knits. This is a free pattern that's available on her blog, and she has created a YouTube tutorial for it. So this pattern is knit with DK weight yarn on 3.5mm needles. It's knit in the round from the bottom up, and I've knit fingerless gloves similar to this look. I've knit the penny gloves before. And they're very timeless and simple to knit, this construction. And what I liked about this pattern that really stood out compared to other fingerless glove patterns is the cute 1x1 rib detail along the top. I just think it creates a nice decorative finish, and it also prevents the curling that can happen when you have more of a simple finishing along the top. And like I said, there's a video tutorial for this pattern, so I think this is great for beginners if you want some more support and an understanding of how to construct the mitten and just more of a step-by-step guide. The next pattern is the Giselle gloves by Knits by Summer, and Summer is a Canadian designer. She came up with this pattern, I think, last year, and ever since I saw it, I just really liked the clean and refined detail on it. So this pattern is knit with fingering and lace weight wool. So the pattern recommends knitting for olive merino or drops baby merino held together with knitting for olive mohair and drops kid silk. This is knit with 3mm needles, and it's similar to the other pattern. It's knit in the round from the bottom up. So like I said, it has a really refined detail along the top. It has a double knit edge around the bottom, the hand part, and the thumb. I just really like how this looks. It prevents the curling as well, just like the other pattern design of the Fancier fingerless gloves, but this one, just to me, it looks a little bit more like refined and elegant, and it's just a nice subtle design detail. There's also 3 sizes for this pattern. I believe they're all adult sizes, but you can still customize it a little bit better to the recipient's hands with those options. And the third fingerless glove pattern we have is the Picot Handwarmers by Purl Soho. This is another free pattern that's available on their website. It's knit with Aran weight yarn, so the yarn recommended and used in the pattern is Purl Soho's Yonder, and you use 4.5 and 5mm knitting needles. There's 4 sizes in this pattern. It ranges from toddler to adult large. So a great resource and option if you want to knit for multiple people. And a lot of Purl Soho winter accessory patterns kind of work as a matching set. So they have a hat, some mittens, maybe a corresponding scarf, so you can knit kind of like a little capsule collection for a recipient if you want to knit more than one thing for somebody. So with this pattern, there's the Picot Handwarmers, but then there's also the corresponding Picot hat. And this pattern features a lot of samples in pastel colors. I think it just looks really sweet, or you can use something more neutral that's a little bit more timeless. And the only mitten pattern, but one that I really want to knit that I featured in this roundup, is the Curly Cuff Mittens by Ruth. This is knit with bulky weight yarn, so the pattern uses Sanis garn Fritis garn with an alpaca boucle. It's knit on 6mm needles, so it's a pretty quick knit, I would say. But what I think the larger gauge accounts for is because you felt the mitten at the end. So it's knit from the bottom up. You start from knitting the main part of the mitten, then you separate stitches for the thumb, and then you start working the main part of the mitten, and then you do some decreases to shape the top, and then you knit the thumb at the end. And then what you do is the pattern includes instructions for how to felt it in your washing machine. I have pretty limited experience with felting. I have done one project in the past, and what I learned is felting tends to shrink and condense, which is why I think they did the larger gauge. So the fabric is really warm, but still it's not so dense afterwards. So once you felt it, then you knit a tube with the alpaca boucle, and then you sew it down for the cuff, which creates that nice boucle little detail there. The designer also has another version. It's, I believe, a fingering weight version, but there's no felting if you wanted to omit that as part of the pattern. The next section is hair accessories, so not hats. I definitely have hats in this roundup, but this is more just simple, smaller hair accessories. So the first one is the knitted cable band by Knitleg. This is a pattern that I always recommend, and I loved working up when I made it last year. It's knit with fingering weight and lace weight yarn held together. So the pattern used Kaus organic brushed alpaca and soft merino, and some other materials that you need for this headband is a 15mm headband. So that refers to the thickness or the width of the headband, and a cable needle because you're working a braided cable. This is worked with 3mm needles in the round, so you can use either double pointed needles or work with magic loop, and it's knit in the round from end to end. So essentially you're creating a knit tube that you're going to insert the headband into, and I think the headband just adds some nice shape to it and structure. It's a pretty quick knit. It's one size, but I think it could fit like an older child and then most like adults, I would say. And I finished mine in 1.5 days. It was a pretty quick knit. I feel like if I was really in a crunch, I mean, I probably wouldn't recommend it, but maybe I could knit it a little bit faster than that. So super quick and a great stash buster. You just need 15 grams of the fingering weight wool and 5 grams of the mohair or brushed alpaca. So I'm sure if you've knit some garments before or other larger knitted pieces, you definitely have some of those tiny partial skeins lying around, and maybe those could work for this headband. The next pattern is the Soho scrunchie by Tori Yu, and there's a ton of scrunchie patterns available online. This one is a free pattern, and it's just, I think it's the ultimate scrunchie pattern, which is why I'm not going to recommend anything else. You can just stop here and knit the Soho scrunchie. This one contains 3 sizes, so there's a mini, a medium, and a jumbo. And there's multiple gauges and multiple needle sizes, so you can really knit any of these scrunchies based off of the yarn that you have in your stash at the moment. So each yarn weight has a corresponding needle size for the different 3 sizes in the pattern as well. So with this pattern, it's knit in the round, and you cast on with a provisional cast on, and then you work in the round just plain stockinette, and then after that you Kitchener stitch it closed around an elastic. And these are just really fun, a great way again to use stash. And I think you could maybe knit a little collection of them. You could knit a little set, maybe like a set of 3 or 4, and gift it to a recipient that really likes scrunchies. I also think with knitted scrunchies you can maybe experiment with different yarn compositions as well. Like I hear silk scrunchies are good for to prevent some hair damage that happens when you use hair elastics. So maybe if you could use some silk yarn scraps that you have, or even if you use some mohair. I think that even though it's a scrunchie, it kind of creates more of like a winter accessory because of the fluff that's added from the mohair. So you can really experiment with different yarn combinations as well. And the last hair accessory pattern is the Augustin number 22 by Anne-Sophie Belling. This is a large knitted hair bow, and it uses fingering weight wool held together with a lace weight yarn. So the pattern recommends knitting for olive merino and knitting for olive soft silk mohair. And you also need an elastic hairband, which you attach at the end. I think this is really sweet. You can wear it with like a ponytail or a bun, but also like a half up, half down, a really nice holiday look, I would say. It's knit with 4mm needles, and there's just one size that's featured, so that larger, pretty dramatic hair bow. It's knit in the round in stockinette stitch. Again, it's a good stash buster project. You just need half skeins of each, so 25 grams of the merino and 12.5 grams of the mohair. It's definitely not for everyone. I think this accessory, it's really sweet, it's really elegant, but if there is someone that you think would really enjoy this bow and it's their style, I think it's a really cool gift. All right, and now we've gotten to the hats, which I think are just classic gift knits that you can give time and time again to recipients. So I have a few here. The first one is the classic ribbed hat by Purl Soho. This is a free pattern available on their website. This pattern is knit with 3.25mm needles with a 16-inch circular needle and double pointed needles. This pattern also features 5 sizes, so it goes all the way from baby to adult large, so definitely a wide range, can gift for many different recipients, and it uses 100 to 279 meters, as there's quite a large range. And most sizes can be knit with just one skein of that recommended yarn, the Cashmere Merino Bloom yarn. So pretty practical. I love when patterns do that, so you just have to use up all of that ball and that's all. The pattern is knit from the bottom up in the round and features that all over 1x1 rib. So it's a pretty simple, relaxing knit. You're just doing that 1x1 rib until it's time to shape for the crown. And the pattern samples feature so many different color combinations, so some great inspiration there. You can knit the hat in just a single color, but the samples also show doing some thinner stripes, some thicker stripes, like a cool little color block, so a lot of possibilities for this hat. The next pattern is the Olivia hat by Knitwear Architect or Louisa Holm, and this pattern uses a sport weight and lace weight yarn held together. So the pattern recommends drops alpaca silk and also kid silk. The pattern has 4 sizes. I believe they're all adult sizes, so a small, medium, large, and extra large, and it's knit on 4mm needles. It's knit in the round from the bottom up. So you cast on stitches and then you work a stockinette brim, and then after you're done that, then you start working brioche. And you work the brioche stitch in the round until you start working the decreases for the top to shape the top of the hat. This hat features a shorter brim or just a shorter silhouette in general. I think it's great if you want to gift it to someone who lives in maybe a slightly warmer climate where you still might want a hat to keep you warm, but you might not need a hat to fully cover your ears or offer a ton of warmth. And I know that's also just a style as well that people prefer. Sorry, I had to come back and refilm because I realized I completely forgot to film one of the patterns. I don't know how, and it's one of the most popular patterns in this roundup, so maybe I don't need to mention it. But the third hat pattern is the Hipster hat by Petite Knit. So when I was coming up with this roundup, I was debating whether or not to include the Oslo hat, which is a quintessential knitting pattern. I feel like so many people have knit this pattern before, and for good reason. I've knit a few myself for gift knits. I've knit 3 before. But the reason why I want to mention, or I would recommend the Hipster hat over the Oslo hat for gift knits, is because of the 2x2 rib. So the 2x2 rib is more stretchy, so I think it has the potential to fit the recipient better. So I have gifted the 3 Oslo hats, and one of them I think fit pretty well. One of them was way too big, and then one of them was too small. And I think it's because the stockinette stitch has less room to stretch. So you have to be a little bit more exact when you're gifting it. And I think if maybe you're just not sure about someone's head circumference, something like an all over 2x2 rib hat, or even the other two patterns that I mentioned, the common thread is that they all have some degree of ribbing in it because it's a little bit more flexible when you're gifting to somebody. So yeah, I don't know if it really needs that much of an introduction in the roundup, but just think of this as more of a reminder maybe that this pattern is out there. So this pattern is knit with DK weight yarn, so either Sunday held double or double Sunday. And it uses 3.5 millimeter needles, so a 16-inch circular needle and double pointed needles to shape the top. There's 4 sizes in this pattern. It goes from baby to man, so you can knit for a wide range of people with this one pattern. It's knit from the bottom up with a simple 2x2 rib, so pretty simple. It's a nice portable project to have, and then you start working the even decreases along the top for the crown. And I like, again, how they have pretty simple and even decreases all along the top of the hat. I just think it creates a really refined and nice finish. So for this year, I think I'll be knitting the hipster hat for some recipients. It'll be different from the Oslo hat I gifted in the past, and also I think it'll have the potential to fit them better. For the next pattern, I just have one homeware pattern I wanted to feature on this roundup, but I just couldn't pass up on sharing it because I hadn't seen it before, but when I was researching for this roundup, I just really loved the stitch pattern on it. So it's the Mug and French Press Jacket by MK Carroll. It's knit with worsted weight yarn, so the pattern recommends Cascade 220 or Knit Picks Wool of the Andes, and it's knit on 4 millimeter needles. The pattern includes instructions for a mug and a French press size, so I think this could be a great little accessory that accompanies maybe a cute mug you got at a Christmas market for someone, or maybe if you want to give someone a French press if you have like a coffee lover in your life. And this pattern is knit in one piece with smocking stitch, which I just thought was so stunning, and it just looks really fancy. I really like it. It's worked in the round from the bottom, and then you split so it can fit around the handle of the mug or the French press. But then you're working an I-cord loop, and then you attach a button on one end so then you can secure and connect the flat piece together. And the pattern includes a chart and a tutorial for how to work the smocking stitch. I've never worked it before, so that will really come in handy for me. But I think it's almost like it's pretty small, so it's almost a little swatch if you want to use that stitch for a larger project in the future as well. And the last two patterns in this roundup are things that you would, I guess, wrap a gift in. I have given gift cards in the past to recipients, and I think they're a really great gift because you can make sure that the recipient is going to get something that they want, or maybe they want something, a more expensive item, and then this gift card can contribute to it. So I do really like giving gift cards, but I do find when you do that, you lose some level of like personal touch when you're giving that. So I just thought that maybe you could knit something to put the gift card in, and it could be that personal touch, and they would appreciate it. It's something practical they can use in the future as a little wallet, but presents the gift really nicely. So I have two patterns here. They're both paid for patterns, but there's quite a bit of math involved, so definitely a worthy investment to support the designers. So the first one is the Marie Clutch by Petite Knit. This pattern uses fingering weight and lace weight yarn held together, but she also includes a worsted weight version as well on Pure Gint or Double Sunday. It's knit with 4 millimeter needles, and there's 3 sizes, so small, medium, and large. And I think the small size would work really well to hold that gift card. Other materials you need for this pattern is a zipper, so the zipper lengths correspond with the 3 different sizes, and a lining as well, a fabric lining. I don't know if the fabric lining is totally necessary. I mean, it's definitely a nice added touch, but I think the finished fabric is pretty dense, or dense enough where you might not need that if you don't know how to sew the lining. I personally wouldn't know how to sew the lining, and if you don't want to go out and purchase that on top of this. So I think you can omit that, but kind of up to you. It's knit in the round with magic loop from the bottom up, and features that all over garter slip stitch pattern, which I think is really fun to work up, but still pretty simple. And then once you're finished that, you sew the lining and then the zipper on at the end. And the pattern is also a great way to use up scraps. For the smallest size, you need just 60 meters of yarn, which I'm sure I definitely have lying around, so I definitely can make quite a few of these. The next pattern is pretty similar to the Marie clutch, but I thought I would just mention it because it has one detail that I really liked and a different stitch pattern. So it's the Espresso pouch by Ullen Knitwear. It's knit with sport weight yarn, so the pattern uses Ramagarn Fennel garn, and it's knit on 3mm needles. There's also 3 sizes, so the small, medium, and large. Again, the small would work well to hold the gift card, and then the other materials you need are the zipper and the lining. You just need 50 meters for the smallest size, so again, a great stash buster. This is knit in the round with magic loop from the bottom up and features an all over broken rib pattern. So again, this one really keeps your interest, but it's still simple enough to work. And what I really liked about this pattern of feature is the I-cord loop that's on the top. Because the purse is so small that if they're gonna use the purse in the future, they can just hook it onto something, and I think it just is a nice little design feature to it. And then once you're finished working in the round, then you also sew in the zipper and the lining on top. And that was the pattern roundup. I hope you enjoyed watching and maybe got some inspiration from any of these patterns that I presented today. I know I definitely need to get started on my gift knits. I've been slacking. I say that every year, but these are pretty quick knits, so I think I can definitely get a few done. The 2 that really come to mind for me is the knitted cable band. I just really like how that looks, and the hipster hat. So I'm gonna get started on those. Let me know down below what types of gift knits you're working on. If there are any of these patterns, I'd love to hear. And until my next video, I'll see you.